Hey listeners! In today's episode, my guest is Judah, and she is from Texas. Actually, she is from really close to where I am now, which is kind of funny. But she is now in Oslo, in Norway. So yeah, she tells her story about moving to Oslo when she was already 38. This is a little bit different than our usual stories because a lot of times when people move to a new country, they are a little bit younger and they're not already like in the middle of their lives. So I feel it's a different step. It's a more serious step because you already lived half your life, kinda. But yeah, let's find out what she has to say in this episode. I'm excited that you're here to listen to it. Just a heads up that today's episode is dealing with miscarrying. So if this is a sensitive topic for you, then maybe skip the last 20 minutes of this episode.
Okay, good. Well, can I ask you before we start?
Yeah.
You said you're in Texas right now?
I am, yes.
Where are you?
I'm in Round Rock.
Okay, I'm from Texas, so...
Okay, where are you from in Texas?
I'm from a really small town. The closest big city is Waco.
Okay,
so not too far from
Round Rock. No.
Yeah.
What's the name of the town?
Kasi. It's just like 300 people. I mean, it's so tiny.
It's super small.
Yes.
Yes.
So.
And since when did you leave?
Well, I went to college when I was 18, and but my parents still live there, so I go back.
Okay.
Like I was just there this summer for a few months. And
oh God,
yes.
It's so hot.
I know, it was crazy this summer.
I know. Yes, we were actually we were in Germany.
And is that where you're from?
Yes.
Okay.
And we were also in Denmark, and it was so nice. It was like,
yes.
I mean, considering here, it would be even like cold.
Right.
But it was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. When I came back to Norway in mid-July, and it was like 55 and raining, and even though it felt so much better, it just didn't feel like summer. But I guess I shouldn't complain.
I know. I was also we had like 2 weeks of rain, and I was like, I take it. Yes. We'll go back to Texas, and it will be like 105.
Yes.
Like every day is the same temperature.
It was so awful, and like all that dryness and no rain. It seems better now, but I know it was really brutal there.
Yeah, we had like a good rain last week.
Oh, good.
Yes.
I'm so glad.
So everything's kind of green again. I think our grass in the front of the house is still dead. I don't think it'll make it.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Needs some intervention.
Yeah. So since when are you in Norway?
I've been here since 2014, so 9 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's the longest I've ever lived, in a foreign country and in one city for like since I left home. I mean, it's just crazy to be in the same town.
Where? Which town is it, or which?
Well,
city?
I'm in Oslo. Yeah. So
okay. City.
Yes.
And what brought you to Norway?
My husband is Norwegian.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I had also written that, like, my initial love was France.
Yeah.
And so that's where I first traveled when I started traveling and studying abroad. And then it was my dream to live there. And so in 2009, I got a job teaching English in Paris. So then I moved to Paris in 2009, and I worked there for a year. But it was hard to keep my work permit. It's France is pretty difficult.
Oh, okay.
So I was only there for a year, and then at that point I had already met my husband, but we were dating long distance, and then we got married in 2013 and decided that we would try Norway as home.
Yeah, I mean, you already look Norwegian with your blonde hair.
Except that when I start speaking, they're like, oh,
she's not from here.
Yeah.
What is your how is your Norwegian?
It's pretty good. It's kind of frustrating because I think in any other country where you've lived for 9 years, you would probably be fluent, like 100% fluent. But Norwegians are so good in English.
Mm-hmm.
It's like their mother tongue. It's actually really hard to speak Norwegian here. And
Oh,
so
okay.
I feel like I'm
Especially
probably like,
in Oslo.
yes, I mean, it's a really international city. And so, you go to the cafe and you can speak Norwegian, but there's a high probability that the person working there is not Norwegian. And
Oh,
so
okay.
they want to speak English, which is fine, or they're Norwegian and they're just being nice and
Uh-huh.
they like to practice English. And my husband and I, we've always spoken English at home. When you meet someone, you kind of speak the language that it's so hard to switch to the other language.
Yeah.
And we don't have children, so I feel like that would also be really helpful if you had a child and you were talking to the teachers and hearing the child learn the language.
Yeah.
Anyway, so to answer your question, I do speak it, but I wouldn't say I'm fluent. My understanding is much better than my speaking, but that's pretty normal for a language. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably just like a B1, B2, which I don't know. I'm kind of embarrassed about it after 9 years.
But isn't
So,
it also like a super hard language to learn? Because
no.
no, when I mean I'm not really familiar with the Nordic languages, but when we went to Denmark, I was like checking how it is to learn it as a German speaker because
Oh,
when I read it, like there are so many similar words,
yes.
So I thought like, oh, it couldn't be so hard to learn, and then when they say something, I don't
Oh,
understand anything.
Danish is a whole nother level. Like,
Uh-huh.
Danish and Norwegian are almost identical because Norwegian comes from Danish, but
Ah.
the way the Danish pronounce it, it's like just everything's swallowed in their throat.
Mm-hmm.
And even Norwegians have trouble. So I wouldn't base your.
Like
um,
it also says like it's for a German speaker is one of the hardest languages to learn.
I'm surprised because
Yeah, I
I
was
think it's a
surprised too.
Germanic language and there's a lot of similarities with English and
Mm-hmm.
German. The hardest thing is, of course, they have, masculine and feminine words. And I think that's really hard for American English speakers
Yeah,
because we don't
everything
have
is
that. And it's
yeah.
like another thing to memorize. And then if it's a feminine word, then the adjective has to be feminine. There's all these rules. And that's the hardest thing. And the thing I probably mess up the
Yeah.
most. Otherwise, the grammar is very basic. They don't have a lot of different words for one thing like we do in English. Like, I don't know, just to give an example, they just reuse the same word, for several things.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't find it like French, is super difficult. I would say it's
Oh God, yeah.
compared
It's
to
so hard.
Norwegian, it's like a different level.
Also,
So
it's like hard to read out. To me, it is.
yes. Um, so Norwegian's been okay. And, it was a requirement for me to have 500 hours with my residence permit when I first moved
Ah,
here,
okay. Mm-hmm.
which the government, offers to you for free if you're here on like
Mm-hmm.
a family reunification
Yeah.
visa. So that was really nice that I got to learn it and just get integrated pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I do use it for my job, but I wish I was more fluent. It is
Okay.
embarrassing, but I can get by.
Yeah. What is your job now?
I'm a logistics manager for a small
Okay.
company. We distribute electronics, but it was not anything that I have worked with before. It was just I knew someone and somebody was out sick and they needed a temporary person. And so I filled in and the job became permanent. But
And
my bachelor's degree is in French.
okay. Uh-huh.
So it's absolutely useless here. If anyone's listening that's thinking about majoring in a language, I would say
Don't do
make it a
it.
minor. Make it a minor
Okay. Yeah.
and major in something more useful. No, I don't
Uh-huh.
want to break anyone's dreams, but French has been absolutely useless most of my career as far
Mm-hmm.
as a degree goes. So anyway, that's what I do for work, and I don't love it, but
No, that's
who
fine.
loves their
But is
job?
yeah, is it also like in English then? If it's
It's
logistics?
it's part half and half because we
Uh-huh.
have a lot of customers in like Lithuania and Poland. So
Yeah.
then I use English, but we have a lot of customers in Norway, and so I do
Okay.
get to use Norwegian for my
Okay.
job all day. And then my boss prefers that we speak Norwegian at
Sure.
work.
Yeah, sure.
So I am using Norwegian daily, but I still feel like it definitely could be improved.
Mm-hmm. In the beginning, so was it a hard decision to make to move to Oslo?
Yes and no. I mean, I was 37 already when we got married, and then by the time I moved here, I was almost 38. So, that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
later in life to make a big
Yeah.
move. But because I had lived in France before, and I've always loved to live in different states, like it's really exciting to me. So there was no hesitation. The only hesitation was, leaving my family, and now, it wasn't like a semester abroad. It was like
It was like permanent.
permanent, and I'm not sure when I'll move back home again. But my husband's parents were elderly, so he wanted to be near
Yeah.
them, which I understood, and I felt like that's fine, and I want to live in a new country, so why not?
Yeah, sure.
So,
And how was it in the beginning? Because it's so different, right?
yeah, it was a hard adjustment, harder than I thought because I had visited here. Yeah, it was more culture shock than I thought it would be because
Okay.
I've lived in France. I felt like, you
How
know,
different can it be? It's already Europe.
yeah, right. But it is very different. Norwegian people are not like French people at all. They're much harder to not communicate with, but like just get to know.
Yeah.
And like in Paris, I would have the local baker would recognize me and we'd say hello, or they remember what I wanted. But here it's like people just are very private, and
Uh-huh.
even if they recognize you, they won't really make the effort to speak.
Okay.
And when you first arrive here, you might think it's rude, like it feels like rudeness,
Uh-huh.
but it's just the other person allowing you your privacy. So once I started seeing things with a different perspective of, okay, this is my perspective, which is probably incorrect, it made life
Mm-hmm.
easier to consider that it's just a different
Yeah,
way of
and also
being.
like in even like in Texas, especially here, they are so
Yeah.
friendly and they're so open
Yes.
and like everybody does small talk. So it's probably
Exactly.
the opposite then.
It is the
Yeah.
opposite. And I understand, like, I'm an introvert, so I'm okay
Mm-hmm.
with not talking to somebody on the bus. But at the same time, sometimes you're in the mood to just chit chat, or like if you want to say, I like your shirt.
Yeah.
And that would just be so
It
weird
is
here.
so
Like,
weird.
people would,
Okay. It's like, oh, what does she want?
yeah. So there was a little bit of culture shock in the beginning. And then, just then you're here for real. You're not a tourist. You have to get like an ID number, and you have to get a bank account, and I had to exchange my driver's license. And so there's all these kind of practical
Yeah.
things. It feels like you're starting over in life when you've already done all these things. So those were a little, I don't know, yeah, a little kind of frustrating, and
Mm.
just you're kind of ready to feel like life is
Yeah,
normal.
exactly. Because I was thinking
Uh,
that the other day. It's like if we would move somewhere else again. It's like I'm 40. Last time I moved somewhere where I didn't know anyone. I was in my 20s. That's like a different part of
right.
life. You're still like open, you're
Yes.
going out. And like now I don't do these things anymore. So I feel like this is like going just with your family somewhere else. It would be like so much harder.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was so much easier to make friends in your 20s, or even in the US, the job you have, it's like you make friends with your
Yeah.
colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
And here, the friends I was making were usually also expats
Uh-huh.
or from another country. And so they'd be here for work for 2 years and then they'd move
Okay,
away.
okay.
So that's been really hard because after 9 years, I only have like one good friend
Okay,
here.
is she or he a Norwegian?
She's French Canadian. And then I have a few like other acquaintances, but
Yeah.
we don't see each other that often. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's frustrating. Even after all this time, I feel like, wow, to be this age and my friend group has gotten smaller instead of,
Bigger.
not necessarily, it doesn't have to get bigger, but richer,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean.
it's it's not as good as it is in the States. And so I still have, my good friends. We've always kept in
Mm-hmm.
touch in Texas. And so when I go home in the summertime, we reconnect. But so that kind of is frustrating. And I also feel like that was a disadvantage of not having children. You're not meeting the parents that you might make friends
Mm-hmm.
with. but anyway,
And what about your husband's friends? Because if he,
yeah, I mean, he has a few, but he's also kind of just a introverted
mm-hmm,
guy who likes to,
be by himself.
yeah. I mean, he's got friends, but I don't know. We don't. If they hang out, it's just them, and I
Ah,
mean, they're
okay.
happy if I'm included. It's not like I'm not
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
welcome,
Uh-huh.
but we don't really just all hang out together.
So
Sometimes they
it's,
come over for dinner or
yeah, so it's
something, but
not,
it's
not
not
like
like
a
a
big
regular.
friends group or something. Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things that are still hard after all this time.
Mm. If the Norwegians are like that, then that's hard. It is hard,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think if I've ever come close to having like a Norwegian friend, and I haven't. It's just, well, I mean, I volunteer at a jazz club,
Okay.
and most of the other volunteers are Norwegian. And I would call them friends, but we only talk to each other when we're on the same shift or
Sure, you're
whatever.
not hang out in private.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, have a lot of acquaintances,
Yeah.
and that's also normal, I guess, as you get older, but it feels different being in a foreign country, and I haven't known these people that long.
Yeah.
So you don't have this history of this friendship, you know?
I feel for me it's sometimes similar. I make easier friends with people who are from abroad.
Yes.
I have also like good acquaintances, especially like through my kids' school. Like I meet the other moms, and we always like chit chat after school, and it's fine. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
also acquaintances. We don't really hang out or anything. We only talk then, and I wouldn't call them like close friends. So the only
Right.
friends I have really are also people from somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's just, you kind of find each other.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I feel like there's like a barrier that they just don't know what to say because probably you have a
Yes.
different background. You didn't grow up here, so they they don't know what to say, or it's like they expect something I don't know things. Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
was not here in the 90s, so
Oh, okay. Right. It's like the context
yeah.
is, and I also think sometimes like when you do meet people, when you finally get in a group or whatever, and then the conversations are also repetitive, like, where are you from? How long have you been here? What do you do? You know, to keep having those
I know.
conversations year after year,
It's so
it just
boring.
feels like,
Oh,
it feels like you're just not getting anywhere. And like,
exactly.
I almost feel invisible sometimes. Like, I feel like I'm on this hamster wheel of everyone else's life is moving forward, and I'm just in this spiral of,
Uh-huh. I know.
yeah.
It's like sometimes I remember it's like I don't even want to go to a friend's dinner or something because like if there are people that I haven't met before, then it's just the same questions
Yes.
over and over again, and I'm so sick of them. I don't want to. I was like even thinking at some point just make up something, a new story,
Right.
you know?
Just be a little, if you're never going to see them again, why not?
It's like, oh yeah, I'm a famous person in Germany.
I had to escape from all the celebrity. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like something completely different. I don't know. Make up a different job. Would you consider moving back though?
Definitely. I feel like, yeah, especially now that my husband's parents unfortunately passed away soon
Hmm.
after I moved here. But now my parents are, in their mid 70s,
Hmm.
and I feel like, yeah, I want to be near them
Yeah.
as this time in life. So I do think that I will move back. I don't know for how long or when, but I don't feel comfortable just being like, I'm just going to stay in Norway while you might need help. Or
Right. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have an older brother. He lives in Houston.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's far away
So
too. I mean,
he's
not
like,
as far as,
right. He's just 3 hours from them.
yeah.
But still, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit closer to my parents than he is. So it
Uh-huh.
just feels, I just feel like I need to be there in the next 5 years,
Yeah.
probably.
And when your parents also a little bit older, they probably don't hop on a plane all the
No, I don't. I
time,
think
right?
those times are over.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Did they come visit though in the beginning?
they did. They came the first year we were married for Christmas, so December of 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to meet his parents because his parents weren't able to come over. We got married in Texas, and his parents
Mm-hmm.
weren't able to come. So that was really nice that they got to meet them before they got ill. And then my husband's from the very far north of Norway.
Oh, okay.
So it's like really dramatic and beautiful and, 24 hours of darkness in December. And so they came during that. They didn't see the Northern Lights, unfortunately, but it was exciting for them to come see Norway and experience something so different.
Yes, it must be beautiful. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. Do you go still often to the north?
No, even though it's still Norway, it's kind of not hard to get there, but it's like an all-day trip to get there because you have to fly to this little airport and then it's a 3-hour bus. And flying in Norway, no matter where you want to go, it's kind of expensive. So
Sure.
I haven't been up there since New Year's Eve 2021.
Uh-huh.
But I love it. I mean, it's so stunning. In the summertime with 24 hours of daylight, it's just a magical place. I would love to live up there for a year just to experience the whole seasons up there. But my husband's actually going in a few weeks because it's been a while since he's been up there. So,
but how was it for you to adjust to the winters in Oslo? Because I'm not sure where it is on the map, but it's dark early, right?
It gets, at the worst, like in about 2 months, it'll be the worst, which is it'll get dark around 4:30, like pitch black.
Yeah.
And then in the mornings, it doesn't start to get light until like 10 a.m. That's the worst of it. And, that only lasts about until the end of December, and then it slowly starts to get
okay. But then
lighter.
it still
takes a while. I would
6 o'clock it's dark, and 9 o'clock it's late.
Yeah,
it's like
it
daylight.
doesn't feel normal until like February. It's not so bad. I don't know if I have that SAD. They call that SAD, where I think that December's nice because it's going to be Christmas time and there's all like beautiful lights everywhere. But November and January can be challenging, especially if it's rainy, because it's just so gray, so dark. It just feels heavy. I can see why people get seasonally depressed.
Yeah.
The cold is interesting. It's not as cold in Oslo, I think, as people think it is. Like, I think some people think all of Norway is just really Arctic. But the Arctic Circle is pretty far north of Norway. And then Oslo is actually, the Gulf Stream comes up to this part of Norway.
Okay, so it's kind of warm.
Well, I don't know.
Not warm, but
not warm, but it's like, I don't know, in December it might be, I'm trying to think in Fahrenheit, like 40.
Okay.
And not
minus
-10.
Yeah.
Right. So we probably have some, really frigid days where it's like minus, but it's not as bad as probably people think it is. And then especially now with things changing, that we don't have so much snow. Like, you might have a lot of snow in January, but none in December. So it just varies.
And do people drink alcohol? Stupid question, just because it's so expensive.
Well, it is expensive, but one of the questions, I was kind of writing out my answers earlier, one of the cultural peculiarities, which I don't know if it's peculiar, but like this probably happens in Sweden and Finland, the darker, cold places. People really drink a lot to socialize, like to make themselves be more comfortable socializing.
Okay.
And I think that it's definitely worse in the winter because you're sad and warms you up. And so no, there's a big drinking culture here, especially with beer, which I don't really love. But people just drink to get drunk, and I don't understand it. Not just enjoying the beverage, but
because you said earlier that they are so private.
Yes, and shy.
So that helps, right?
It does, yeah.
With alcohol makes that so easier to socialize when it's not your nature.
Right. So yeah, there's a big drinking culture here, but it's interesting with how they sell alcohol. The only place you can get like wine or liquor, the store is called the Wine Monopoly, and so it is a monopoly, and it closes at 3 p.m. on Saturdays. And you know how in France, I think in Germany too, you can just buy a bottle of wine at the grocery store.
Yeah.
That just, that doesn't happen here.
So it's like almost like in the US, like a liquor store.
Exactly. Yeah. But So
in the US, you can still buy in the grocery
right.
stores, but but there are also just liquor stores.
Yes, exactly. Like, I guess you couldn't buy gin at like the grocery store, but here the only thing you can get at the grocery store is beer.
Okay.
And it's like the lower alcohol beer. If you want the strong alcohol beer or any kind of liquor, you have to go to the wine monopoly.
Okay.
So that's been interesting. Yeah.
And they set the prices because it's a monopoly. So
Yeah. I mean, it's
right.
not too crazy, but yeah, I mean, everything here is just so expensive.
It is expensive, right? I mean, like especially when you come from Germany, everything's so cheap. Like the Nordic countries are just in general
Yes.
like so much more expensive. When we came from the US, we're like, okay, prices are kind of similar. Like beer is, or like alcohol is more expensive. But if you compare it to other countries in Europe, it's a big difference.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Norway, I know people really complain about it, or tourists, especially well, it's probably coming from the US was better this year than like the Norwegian kroner is so weak. If to go anywhere in Europe or the US, you just feel like you're losing so much money with the exchange rate because it's terrible.
Is there anything that you really like in Norway?
Yes. I mean, it's a beautiful country. Oslo is really nice because it's just surrounded by forests. You can be in the mountain, not the mountains, well, kind of mountains, but you can be like in the really deep forest walking with birds in like 5 minutes from the city center. There's just a big focus here on nature and enjoying nature. And, we have the fjord and the sea right here. And also in Norway, I really like, they have really great public transportation. So I don't have to have a car, which is really nice. It simplifies life a lot. I do miss driving, but it's so nice just to be able to depend on bus, train.
Do you live in the city center, kind of?
Yeah, pretty close to the center. So we're just like 5 minutes from the central station.
Okay, so you have like subway access like right away.
Yes, well, we're closer to a bus stop, but yeah, I mean, everything's super close. I think the work culture here is really great. Like, I don't ever feel pressured to stay late, or maybe it's just my job. And I'm sure there's some jobs here where they feel some pressure, but like the full time here is 36 and a half hours a week.
Okay.
There's 5 weeks of vacation after your first year of working. And, no matter what your job is, like, you're going to have between 4 and 6 weeks of vacation. If you're working at a grocery store, or if you're a CEO, they really value vacation time, which is so amazing compared to the US, where you might get 2 weeks. Yeah. If you're lucky.
It's like in the US, the benefits, they really count for the job.
Yeah, I mean, that there are some foods I like, I guess, but nothing.
Yeah, what is the food like?
I mean, Norwegian food is, well, it's kind of hearty. Like, it's like stews, and they like to have, like, this time of the year, it's called fårikål. It's like this cabbage lamb stew. And so you see all the signs in the stores, and people like to make it. And then at Christmas time, I think the Christmas food is amazing. It's like ribba, which is basically like pork belly, like crispy pork belly. And they have dried lamb, which is really good, and rutabaga. I don't know if that's the same is that no English, rutabaga? I think so. Anyway, I mean, they're kind of known for some horrific foods like sheep's head and lutefisk. It's like this.
Yeah, that one in the can.
Oh, that's Swedish. But there's this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's this Christmas dish that's kind of old-timey. They used to like cure the fish with lye. And
with lye? What is
lye? It's like some kind of poison. So they put the lye on the fish, but then they have to rinse it they put it in water for like a week or something, so that you don't get poison. But anyway, it's from the old days, but they still eat it at Christmas time. But I've never had it.
Does it ever go wrong?
Not that I've heard of. I hope not.
What happens? What does it make to you?
I don't know if they still use lye anymore. Maybe, let me see.
I gonna have to translate it later, what it is.
Yes, lutefisk. So it's a dried white fish. It is made from aged stockfish. So see, it adopts a gelatinous texture, which that's kind of what grosses me out.
That sounds not so good. No.
After being rehydrated. So they probably don't use lye anymore, but
Have you tried it?
no, it doesn't interest me. I'm not crazy about fish, which is not great in Norway, but there's other Christmas food I'd rather have. And they have wonderful breads here, like they're really great bakers. So there are some nice things about Norway, of course.
Do you miss though Texas barbecue?
I do. I miss Tex-Mex more than
Tex-Mex.
barbecue, but yeah, guacamole and good tacos, and like every time I go home, when I go to the grocery store, I just feel like it's overwhelming how the grocery stores are so huge.
Yeah.
And the cereal aisle is like, I don't know, hundreds of cereals, 50.
I know, but they're all so sugary. There's like one healthy one and 99 sugary ones.
That's true. It's not I definitely don't miss the healthy parts of American food, but I miss like Fritos and Hershey's Kisses, like, just bad junk food.
Yeah.
And then all the cereal choices.
Lucky Charms.
Like peanut butter Captain Crunch. Peanut butter Crunch. It's my favorite. Yeah.
Do you have other things when you come back to the US, like reverse culture shock, kind of?
I guess just, like kind of complete strangers telling you their life story. If you go to like a gas station or wherever, somebody just strikes up a conversation and you walk out knowing that they're like divorced and in a lawsuit with their ex, and like I was just trying to get gas.
It's like everything where I would say, oh God, it's too much information.
Yeah. I think too, like with all the, when I was in Austin this summer, there was a sign on one of the cafes that said they didn't allow open carry in their cafe. And, coming from Norway where there's just no gun problems.
Yeah.
I grew up there and that's all interesting, but to not have to be worried about it. Or think about it, to all of a sudden be faced with it. And, it was just kind of like, oh yeah, that's going on here, or that's allowed here. It's just very different because Norwegians just don't even really understand that. But I don't want to get into that on your podcast.
Yeah.
But, I guess the biggest thing is just having small talk and also like on TV, the commercials, like for all the medical things, that's not allowed here.
For medical things in general, or like, just that whole list that they read it out?
Yes, well, just
all the side effects and
like all the drug, like all the medicines that you can. They kind of just suggest that you might need, and then they go through that, and this can cause blah 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 blah. But like all those medicine commercials aren't allowed here, so you just don't see ads for like all the stuff that.
Oh, I did not know this. We have that in Germany. We do have. I mean, I don't think for like serious antibiotics or something, you don't have commercials for that, but you have for sure like for like some ointments.
Oh, okay.
And for vitamins.
Yeah, I guess here they would have
like something that strengthen your bladder.
Exactly. Yeah, so maybe like that.
Those things.
Like things that maybe aren't regulated, or it's just a vitamin or something. But also, they're not allowed to advertise to children here, like during cartoons. Like they're not allowed to have like toy commercials.
Oh, that is so nice.
That's interesting because we just grew up that way. Like that's all I know is toy commercials and like kind of advertising snuck into the cartoon, maybe even. So yeah, just different ways of they kind of are kind of, I guess, trying to protect kids in a way. I don't know what the reason is.
Oh, and they protect parents too, because it's so annoying. We don't have TV. I mean, we do have TV, but we don't have like we just watch streaming.
Oh, okay, right.
So you don't have like all the commercials, but when we go home, we have just regular TV. I mean, they don't understand the concept of regular TV anyway. But then you have all the commercials, and then they say like, "Oh, I want this, I want this." But so it's nice not to have that.
Yeah. I think that's, it was interesting to find that out because how when you just grow up a certain way, you don't even realize there's any other options. And like, oh yeah, I guess that's kind of messed up that they're advertising to children. But
yeah, I mean, I grew up like that too. So it's, to me, it's all normal, but it's very nice not to have it. And your friends that you grew up with, do they still live in the same town?
Yes. I mean, a lot of the people that I went to high school with are still there. And then some moved as well to like bigger cities in Texas. So when I go home in the summer, I see like 3 or 4 of them that I've kept in touch with. And I went to my 25th high school reunion, which was 4 years ago. But I didn't really enjoy it. And so I'm not planning on going to the 30th.
Okay.
It's just, it's like, well, we were a pretty small school. There was only 90 of us that graduated. And so then only like 20 come to the reunions.
Okay.
And it's fine. I'm happy to see everybody, but not much is going to change in 5 years. So
yeah, and is it strange because you just have to tell your life story, or like?
no,
I
I
mean,
think maybe because of Facebook, people like
right,
know where you live, and I
right.
don't post at all, but I guess they just kind of feel like they know you, and so it was almost like not even I don't even remember really talking about it. Yeah, I think also like, social media kind of makes people feel like they know what's going on with you.
Right.
Which is fine, but at the same time,
You
you're
only
not
post what you want to post.
exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. You only post the nice things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no one seems super curious.
Is there still something in Norway that, like culturally, that you find strange or that it's hard
Um,
for you to comprehend?
it's still hard for me to understand, like, sometimes if you are like on the bus or if you're in a grocery store and you like bump into someone,
Mhm.
they they just go about their business. They don't say, excuse me, you're sorry, or if you say you're sorry, they don't react.
Uh-huh.
And when I first moved here, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's just so rude. But now I realize
Ah,
they
okay.
just don't care. Like it wasn't a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
There was no need to draw attention to it. So
Mhm.
just go about your day. And so then, I'm like, okay, it's not, sometimes maybe that's a nice way to look at it. Like it just wasn't a
Mhm.
big deal. But sometimes there's like complete unawareness. And I know this happens in other cities. It's not just Norway, but like, walking down the sidewalk and not making any room for sometimes it just seems like people are completely unaware.
Okay, so they almost like run into you.
Yeah, or there'll be like 2 people walking and it's a narrow sidewalk, and then,
They don't make
they
space.
won't like get behind the other person just to let you pass. But I
Mhm.
don't feel like that's a strictly Norwegian thing. Maybe it's just of not having a car and then I'm just walking. Like I heard somebody complaining about that in Paris recently. So I don't think it's a Norwegian thing, but there is something going on here, I feel like, with not being as aware as an American would be about
Mhm.
apologizing or getting out of the way or trying to kind of almost control the situation.
Mhm.
So that's kind of hard to get used to. Like, I feel like I want to intervene sometimes. Like, if I
Uh-huh.
see a problem and it's like, that's none of my business. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's just a very American thing to do. Like, kind of
Yeah.
want to like take to fix it.
Oh, I see. How do they react to Americans or to
Um,
you?
I mean, most people are so nice. Especially when they hear I'm from Texas, because I think Texas has this kind of like idea here of being the Wild West, and they even have Norwegians have it's an adjective. In Norwegian, they say it's helt Texas, and it means it's just like crazy, off the charts, like it was a wild situation.
Okay.
So I think it's so funny that they use this word to mean crazy because they imagine Texas is like, you know,
Like cowboy land,
yeah,
just cowboys and
yes,
rifles and
right,
cows.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, most people are very nice. I mean, I've never felt embarrassed to be American or
Yeah.
have to apologize for it. Once you start talking to people, of course, they're usually always very friendly, but it's just
Mhm.
hard to get that first kind of interaction going.
Yeah.
And then I had also written, because I've been noticing this in the past few years. I feel like there's a real different idea here of preventative medicine that they don't
Mhm.
really it's not really important here. Whereas in the US, preventative medicine, like you need to start having a colonoscopy at 45, get your mammograms at 40. And here
Mhm.
it's almost like if you feel fine and nothing's wrong, then don't come to the doctor,
Uh-huh. Okay.
which I can see both. I definitely can see the reasoning behind both ways of thinking, but it's just kind of scary because like colon cancer, there's a high rate of that here.
Ah, okay.
And then you look at that and you're like, well, it's because they're not doing colonoscopies until they have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to be aware of, what is normal, or like what would make me feel better for my own body, but yet not be too hyper, like too over aware of,
Mm-hmm.
like, do I need to get a colonoscopy? I don't have any family history.
Can you request it though?
Oh yeah, you can request it.
And then they will do one, yeah.
Yeah. Like even like dentistry, or, in the US, they want you to go to the dentist every 6 months.
I know, but I feel also in the US it depends if you have insurance or not. You're right.
Yeah. But here it's like maybe once a year,
Okay.
like if your teeth hurt, come see us,
Yeah.
but otherwise just keep brushing.
Yeah.
But that could be very much a result of the difference in healthcare systems, whereas in the US it's for profit. So of course they want to see you as
Sure.
much as possible. And here it's not. They're kind of understaffed.
Right. They
So
don't want you, if you don't have anything,
yeah,
don't even bother take our time.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and even, I mean, I touch on this and it sounds kind of sad. You can edit it out if you want to, but I was about 4 years ago, I was pregnant. And, well, because of my age, I was able to get an ultrasound, and then I lost the baby. But if you're under 40 and you're pregnant, they're like, you don't need to have an ultrasound until you're like, I don't know, almost giving birth.
Oh, like no
So I think,
ultrasound at all?
well, because I didn't go through it, like,
Okay.
anyway, I know I've heard women under 40 saying that it was so crazy because, in the US, it's like you have an ultrasound almost immediately. But here it's like, I don't know, several months into the pregnancy before, if you're young and healthy,
Okay.
before they even do that. So, those are some differences that I think are quite shocking and make you feel really uncomfortable because we're just so used to a different
system.
system. Yeah.
And in the beginning, there was something funny that you thought of because it was so different and
Like culturally, or
mm-hmm.
the Norwegian language sometimes makes me laugh because it's just so kind of direct. Like the word for dimple is smile hole, or
Oh,
like it's
okay.
real. So I'm about 5'8". I'm not super tall for a woman, but I guess I'm tall. But I guess I have large feet. I wear a size 11 in the US shoe size, which is like a 42 here. Well, that's a big shoe. And so I always have a hard time finding shoes. So there's one shoe store in Oslo, and the name of it in Norwegian is just Big Shoes. And so I'm like, wow, could you not have
Thank you.
made it a little bit more subtle? So that always makes me laugh. Like sometimes
just go to a big shoe.
Yeah, just where do you have to buy your shoes? Big shoes. There's just some things are just so direct. It makes me laugh that it's like, wow, they just really didn't even try to hide what. So anyway.
But that's funny. I mean, but then you also have to kind of be able to take a joke, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's big shoes. Like, I guess it's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, and I had mentioned I lived in Venice for 3 months this year, at the beginning of this year. And I guess Italian women are quite tiny because I would go to a shoe store and say I was looking for a size 42 shoe, and they were just like, oh, it doesn't exist in Italy. Like, oh my gosh, like
everything is so petite. Yeah.
So then I needed my big shoe store in Venice, but I did find shoes there finally, but it took forever.
I have the opposite problem, but only when I go to Germany because I have a size 36.
Okay.
So it's like a 5.5.
Oh wow.
Here. So like here is not a problem, but in Germany there is just no selection. There are so you go to the regular shoe store, you have for 38, for example, size 38, you have 50 different kinds. But if for a 36, you have 3 pair,
Oh, yeah.
and usually they're like ugly.
Right. No, I feel
So,
that way too about the larger shoe size. It's like very limited and they
uh-huh.
only have a few.
And they're not
It's,
nice looking. And then, and so I liked it here in the US because there's like all the small sizes.
yes, that's true.
Uh-huh.
The US is amazing for variety and big
Yes.
quantities of things.
Oh God, yes. But in the US it's also like I'm I'm very petite. I'm like 5'0", and I am normal. I'm not super skinny, but I wear an XS.
Oh, yeah.
But like an XS at Old Navy is too big.
Oh my
So
gosh.
so I'm like, I cannot go buy you regular in the regular store because it just doesn't fit.
Oh, I
So like
guess,
here the clothes are just made
do,
for bigger.
right, bigger frames and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. Well, I can go to the European stores. That is fine. But
Oh,
just the
okay.
American stores, they're like the extra small is
Like a
I don't know.
large
I
on you.
would say it would be I think probably a small or an M even.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, but that's fine. Like
Yes.
I mean even nowadays it's fine because like you have all the stores here, like all the European stores are here too,
Right, like Zara
and
and
then online.
H&M and
Yes, exactly, online, and
right.
so
Can
it's
find
not a problem
anything.
anymore. But that was more like 15 years ago or
Right, when you
something, right?
first
It's like when you did not order everything online.
right. It's
Yeah,
harder.
yeah. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Well, this is so fun. Thanks for letting me do
Yeah.
it. And
So and also like I can take out that pregnancy thing if you
I
want
mean,
to.
I'm comfortable with it. Maybe it will help other
Okay.
people, realize that you can have a miscarriage in a foreign country and life goes
Yeah.
on. But
Yeah.
no, it's up to you. If it doesn't fit in, that's fine. But
Yeah, I mean,
it's part of
whatever you
life.
feel
So, oh, I'm
comfortable.
comfortable with it. I mean,
Mhm. Okay,
it.
thanks for letting me
Oh,
know.
sure. So thank you, and
Okay.
enjoy Texas. Give it a hug for me in whatever
I
way
will.
you can.
I will. It's so hot. I don't.
Still, even today.
It will be And that was Judah's story from Norway. We recorded it a while ago when it was still hot here. Thank God now it cooled off a lot. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And please reach out to me if you want to be a guest on my show or for anything else. If you have a nice story to tell, it's Worlds Collide 123pod@gmail.com. And you can also find this in the show notes. And if you like this episode or this show, then please give it a nice review wherever you listen to your podcast. I hope I will see you next time. Bye bye.